He was young, powerful in stature, and strikingly handsome. The kind of man who didn't just enter a room but commanded it without a word. His dark eyes carried both pain and fire, his shoulders broad from labor, his presence undeniable. She, on the other hand, was elegance carved into human form. Her robes embroidered in gold, her perfume lingering in the air long after she passed, her beauty sharpened by the confidence of power. But beneath her charm was hunger, a restless desire that wasn't satisfied by wealth or status. She was a woman who always got what she wanted, and this time, what she wanted was forbidden. Their story is not a simple tale of lust. It is a story of temptation colliding with conviction, of seduction confronting integrity, and of one man forced to choose between fleeting pleasure and eternal destiny. Joseph and the wife of his master. The air between them crackled with tension, and in that silence, the world was about to change. Joseph's journey into this house was paved with betrayal and pain. Once, he had been the golden son, wrapped in a robe of many colors, loved by his father but despised by his brothers. Their jealousy boiled into hatred, and one day they stripped him of his robe and sold him like cattle to passing traders. From the land of his fathers, Joseph was dragged into Egypt, a foreign world of towering statues, golden temples, and strange tongues. Here, he should have broken. But Joseph was different. Instead of shrinking into despair, he worked with excellence. In the house of Potiphar, a powerful Egyptian officer, Joseph rose from lowly servant to chief steward. He managed fields, gold, storerooms, and servants with precision. Soon, Potiphar trusted him with everything. Joseph's name carried weight in the household, his presence respected by all. But with every promotion, with every display of his discipline and strength, he caught another gaze, one that burned with desire. Potiphar's wife began to watch him more closely. She was a vision of power wrapped in silk. Her skin glowed under lamplight. Her jewelry shimmered like stars, and her every step was deliberate, calculated to draw attention. She lived in abundance, surrounded by luxury, but inside her chest was a craving that no gold could satisfy. Day after day, she watched Joseph, his muscles defined by labor, his sharp mind organizing her husband's estate, his discipline unshaken. Unlike the men who groveled before her, Joseph did not chase her attention, and that only fueled her obsession. She wanted him not just for his beauty, but because he resisted her gaze. It was the forbidden that thrilled her. Soon, her whispers became bold words. Her stares became direct commands. "Lie with me," she said, her voice dripping with seduction, her hand brushing against his robe. It wasn't just a suggestion, it was a demand, born from entitlement and unchecked desire. She was the mistress of a house. She had power. But Joseph had something stronger, conviction. Joseph's refusal wasn't casual. His heart pounded, his body burned with the weight of temptation. But his answer was sharp, unwavering. "Your husband has trusted me with everything," he said, his voice steady. "I cannot betray him. More than that, I cannot sin against God." His words sliced through the silence, but she didn't stop. Each day, she pressed harder, her advances more daring, her tactics more relentless. Sometimes it was a smile in the hallway, sometimes a hand brushing against his chest, sometimes a command whispered with authority. But Joseph held his ground. His integrity was not for sale, not for pleasure, not for power. Yet temptation doesn't retreat easily. It circles. It waits. And one day, when the house was empty and the servants gone, she made her boldest move. The room was quiet, the air heavy with heat. Joseph entered to do his work, unaware of the ambush waiting. She stepped out from the shadows, her robe draped loosely, her eyes locked onto him with hunger. The house was silent. No witnesses, no one to interrupt. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She moved toward him, her voice low, commanding, "Lie with me." Her hand reached out, gripping his robe, pulling him closer. In that instant, Joseph's heart raced, not with desire, but with urgency. He could not reason with her. He could not linger. The danger wasn't her beauty. It was the trap of compromise. In a burst of desperation, Joseph tore himself free, leaving his robe in her hands, and fled into the open air. His chest heaved, his feet pounding against stone, his dignity intact. But behind him lay the seed of disaster. Because what she held was not just a robe, it was evidence. Humiliation twisted into fury. Rejected, scorned, and holding only his garment, she screamed. Her voice rang through the halls, summoning servants, spinning a lie with venom in her tone. He came to mock me. He tried to force himself upon me. She displayed the robe as proof, her tears crafted, her outrage feigned. When her husband returned, she delivered the same performance, her words like daggers, her anger convincing. Potiphar's face hardened. His trusted steward, the man who had run his house flawlessly, was now accused of betrayal. And though deep down he may have doubted his wife's story, the evidence in her hands left no defense for Joseph. In one moment, his honor was shattered, his freedom stripped, and chains bound his wrists once more. The faithful servant was now a condemned prisoner. The dungeon was cold, dark, and merciless. Iron bars shut Joseph away, the smell of damp stone filling his lungs. He had been betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and now condemned by a lie. Any ordinary man would have broken. But Joseph wasn't ordinary. Even in the shadows, his integrity remained his strength. He chose not to let bitterness consume him. Slowly, just as before, he rose in the dungeon. His discipline, his wisdom, his unshakable faith, it all made him stand out, even in chains. The prison guards began to trust him, handing him responsibilities. It was as though every setback became preparation for something greater. And though Joseph couldn't see it yet, this dungeon was not his ending. It was the hallway to destiny. This story isn't just about lust or betrayal or false accusations. It's about the power of integrity when the world burns with temptation. Joseph could have given in. He could have hidden his compromise behind secrecy, lived in comfort, and avoided prison. But he chose the harder road. He chose truth over pleasure, honor over deceit, destiny over desire. And that choice, though it led him to chains, also positioned him for a throne. Because from that prison cell, Joseph would rise higher than he ever dreamed. Second in command of Egypt, savior of nations, and a man remembered not for scandal, but for faith. And so the story leaves us with a question: what robe are we willing to leave behind in order to keep our destiny intact?